ahead and call the meeting to order. The Jackson County Board of Commissioners today is a special call meeting, December 14th, 2021, and we are a little bit behind schedule by at least an hour. So first item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to today's agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next is approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes from our December the 7th regular meeting. After having a chance to review those in advance, what's the pleasure of the board?
After reviewing the minutes, I make a motion to approve as presented on December 7th.
All right, have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any question or discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, the motion carries. Next is the administrative reports. I do not have a report for today. Commissioner Woody, do you have anything to report?
No.
Commissioner Jones?
Got my booster shot today for COVID, and just encourage everybody else to get theirs. And if you haven't got your shots, let's get them.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Striblin?
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Deeds?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to our county manager's report. Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir. You should have included, should have in front of you the manager's report. I do have it up here online. First item is the standard monthly reporting in regards to zoning and building permits. There is the attachment behind the summary here. In the month of November, the planning department issued one renovation addition permit, and the code enforcement office issued 4 commercial permits and 5 renovation addition permits. Next item is in regards to municipal grant applications. We have sent out grant applications to the municipalities. The applications are due to the county, and just a reminder to the board, this is the annual municipal grant application process. The board sets aside $20,000 a year. Each municipality is eligible up to $5,000 to just submit a grant for any projects that they have going on. The grants themselves are due 5 p.m. January 7th. This issue will be put on the January 11th work session with the idea that the board would make awards during the January 18th regular meeting. Next item, let me go back to my summary, is in regards to the American Rescue Plan. The U.S. Department of Treasury has not issued final rule at this point. Any decisions made in regards to this funds based upon the interim rules will be considered final, and nothing that comes out of the U.S. federal government can change any decisions made under interim rules. That has come through all of our school of government training, things of that nature. We don't feel like anything's going to change, but I just want to reiterate that even though the final rules aren't out there, any decision made based upon interim rules, the frequently asked questions that's on the federal website, so forth, it's final, and we're able to proceed forward with it. Basically, the federal government says they're not going to change the rules in the middle of this. They understand that people have made decisions and moved forward with expending some of these funds. I also can tell you the staff has spent many hours going through the School of Government seminars, association seminar, mainly put on by the seminar. I've actually participated, been on panel discussions myself in regards to the expenditures of these funds and different concepts of where these funds can and cannot be allowable. Again, your finance officer spent time there. Myself has spent time on the School of Government seminars. These seminars provided guidance on eligible expenses and also the federal rules on how to expend these funds. Not only do you have to deal with eligible uses, but you also have to follow the Federal Office of Management budget guidelines on contract and procurement, things of that nature. And so that is what's really complicated potential items such as nonprofit applications and things of that nature. But just so this board knows, I have now developed a pathway to proceed forward if the board chooses to move forward with with nonprofit applications. I have now come up with what's an acceptable, myself and staff has come up with an acceptable way to proceed forward with that conversation. And so there are pathways to move forward with expenditures of these dollars. The state of North Carolina has passed its budget and is beginning to disseminate information on how they plan on spending their own ARP funds. And we'll be able to be in a real good position for January, February to basically talk about the planning of the remaining ARP funds. There is one final federal legislation pending that will impact these discussions. And I went ahead and put it on this, the actual laws themselves. This legislation will provide more flexibility on how these funds can be expended. It's already passed the U.S. Senate. That's Senate Bill 3011 that you see on there, and it's currently sitting in a committee at the House, U.S. House. It's got it's House Bill 5735. It's got 126 co-sponsors, and my understanding of what's happening right now, it's got a lot of support at the House, but as you know, as anything else, there's other issues being thrown and tacked onto this bill. So the reality is that's what's delayed its passing. But everybody that I've heard, the expert that the Association of County Commissioners hires to provide their opinions in regards to federal legislation, they all feel like that this legislation will pass. And what it does is it provides more flexibility on the expenditures of those funds, which will impact long-term, how this board chooses to expend the remaining or the $5 to $8 million that we're talking about. I can tell you the projects that we're discussing now have been proceeded forward under the current rules, meaning they would be eligible whether or not this law passes or not. And what I mean by that is they will follow all the OMB rules and regulations for expenditures, and they also fall under the eligible category. And so basically right now, if this flexibility law passes, things like to be able to use it for general government expenses could potentially allow us to do things like look at our existing budget, maybe pay for that, free up monies for other things. It just gives us a lot of other flexibility in the future, and hopefully we'll know when that law passes what can be done and how that can serve us. Next item is the salary survey. Just as the board knows, we've contracted with Evergreen Solutions to perform a pay plan study. And as you know too, I think you're aware that Haywood County has just implemented in the last few months their salary study. Macon County has just implemented their pay increases based upon the salary study. Of course, you're aware of that when EMS came before this board and discussed the issues they were facing and what they had heard Macon County had done for their EMS employees. So what that's going to do is exacerbate our issues that we were already facing. Now, just so you know that that information that was the implementation of Macon County and also Haywood County, all that information was provided to our company. So when they come back and make recommendations to us, they will have update information in regards to their recommendations to us for what we need to do. So just a reminder, it's planned at the beginning of fiscal year 21-22 that this would be a mid-year implementation. The 21-22 budget included some funds for implementation. But I also wanted to, my last sentence there talks about today's audit presentation. And in today's audit presentation, of course, you did see TDA come to you, and I mentioned to you a good year that they have. Of course, you've been hearing throughout month after month. You've heard Darlene, our finance officer, stand in front of you and talk about sales tax. And you'll see that you'll have a good audit presentation talking to you about our revenues for last year. And then also that's rolled over to this year too. One of the things I want to mention about that on today's audit presentation, just a reminder that from a salary study standpoint, staff is looking to come and start these discussions with this board in January, mid to late January, about recommendations and potential amounts needed to implement those recommendations. So I think the news that we're getting from the audit will help in those conversations. The other thing is construction projects. The Animal Rescue Center, Green Energy Park, the retaining walls. I'll scroll down to the pictures. The retaining walls are complete. The grading contractor is starting on storm sewer and walking paths in the next 30, 60 days. As you can see, these pictures are from a couple days ago. The construction of the metal building is moving forward. The weather and delay in metal building delivery has moved the projected substantial completion date of this project back to June of 22. Next item is a set of pictures. You can see demolition for the Fairview press box is complete. If you look at these pictures, you see this little pit here. It's hard to tell, but if you look in the back, you can see there's water at the bottom of the pit. We did run into some groundwater. It's amazing. That building been standing there for I don't know how many decades, and you lift it up and we find groundwater. Now, the good news is we did have some monies budgeted in that amount to deal with unsuitable soils and replacement with gravel and things of that nature. And so unsuitable soils will be removed and replaced with stone and fabric. Also let the board know we've come up with an alternative to running new water line. If you remember, that was a $62,000 quote that we told you, we asked you to go ahead and budget, but we said we'll try to come up with alternates. What we're going to do, the engineers believe that the existing water line does provide enough pressure. You do need, with these commercial toilets, you do need pressure and volume eventually if you use that system over and over. So the alternative that the engineers have come up with is a small 200-gallon storage tank on site to help with the volume issue, and they believe that will take care of issues. But just to be on the safe side, what we're going to do while we have everything filled up there is we're going to go ahead, we're not going to run a water line the whole way, but I'm going to go ahead and cut through the pavement and stub out and run a 2-inch water line to the building and just stub it out to the backside. And that way, if for some reason or another these solutions don't work and we do have to come back later and run a water line, which would be a fairly good distance to get to that stub out, we have the option of doing that without having to go back and re-tear up pavement and things of that nature. So I'm still waiting on the cost on that, but that should be a substantial savings to us. The goal of the contractor, just a reminder to the board, is they're wanting to have it under roof by the end of January, and the goal is to have it really just buttoned in by February. I think practice and use of those fields start sometime in March. And if we can have the site cleaned up, it won't be finished, but we have it cleaned up where they're just doing mostly interior work, then use of the fields will be pretty open to the nonprofits, and that's still the goal there. Next item, Community Service Center. So we're looking to do, we've been in that facility almost a year now. One of the things that I always recommend before you do interior wayfinding signs, signs that says, code enforcement to the left and things of that nature, is to live in the building for a year. It's somewhat, normally it's not a year. Normally you can live in the building for a few months. And that allows you to figure out what questions the public ask. My experience is if you don't do this, then you end up hanging signs that just don't work. The problem, we had to wait a little bit longer, obviously because of the pandemic and COVID. We didn't really have a natural flow of the public in the building initially. We've had a natural flow in the public now for months, even though, of course, we require masks and temperature taking. And so now leadership over there, they're getting together, and county staff is developing interior wayfinding signage. We're also going to need to look at some additional exterior signage. You may have received this issue. That building has been named the Community Service Center for a long time, but I am still getting questions and complaints about, we don't have the health department name, code enforcement name. And so we'll develop something on the outside that you've seen it at Public Works, you've seen it at Aging, where we'll try to name the entities that are in the building itself, and that will be helpful to the public. Um, although they get directions to the health department, it still helps to show up to the building and to say health department on it. And so they're going to also help develop some exterior signage there, and we're going to proceed forward and go ahead and put up the flags. And the final thing is, you see the picture here. Of course, everybody, you probably noticed that the soffits, the concrete trim, for lack of better terms, all around that building is discolored. You can't pressure wash it. It doesn't get any better than what you see right now. It's always been the plans to do this. We just, as you know, we were trying to get through our previous contract with our contractor and close it out, so we just held off on this conversation. But we have contracted with a vendor to come up and ultimately stain these areas. Now, if you notice that little piece right there, right now it doesn't look any different. But if you flip to the next page, you can see what it's going to look like. This is not a paint. This is a stain that has 25-year warranty. Ultimately, when you look at the concrete there, it is porous. It will suck the stain in. The stain will go into the concrete itself, and we should not see chips or peeling or things of that nature. So ultimately, once you see that, I just want you to see what it would look like. And then when it's all said and done, you'll see that the outside of the building, it will transform the outside of the building. And we'd always planned on doing that. And so we're just basically buttoning up and finalizing all the finishes on this facility. One day, hopefully we can have an open house or a grand opening. We just hadn't ever been able to do that because of the pandemic, but we are finalizing just the issues in this building. Next is Clark Nexon continues developing the construction documents for the indoor pools. We're anticipated to take that project out to bid late spring, and inform the board that Clark Nexon will be appearing before the board at the January 4th, 2022 meeting to basically update the board on all cost projections and where we're at now. It's one final discussion before we pull the trigger on everything in regards to bid documents and things of that nature. Also, what will start coming up in the months of January and February is the financing methods. I know we talked about bonds, and right now it seems like bonds are the cheapest route to go as far as interest rate. But there is a cost of the issuance of bonds between $250,000 to $300,000, and so what I'll need to do is put together an analysis about using bonding methods and the cost of issuance versus more traditional methods, which cost less, but it's a higher interest rate. So it's really just discussions like that will come before the board talking about the best ways to finance it. And this really has to be decided. If we're going to bond, we have to decide now. We can't wait. There's a lot of action that has to be taken in the next several months in order for us to prepare to issue bonds. And so that'll all be coming up in January. And then finally, architects for both the Domestic Violence Shelter and the Justice Administration Center will be selected in the month of January, February 22. Proposed contracts will be brought before the board for approval. And a reminder, we've already talked about the request for qualifications for the Domestic Violence Shelter. The only contract being brought before the board under that process would be for the Domestic Violence Shelter, not for the homeless shelter. We're going another planning process for that project. Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Any questions for our manager for the report that he gave?
I'm real pleased that you're planning on signage for the community service building. I get a lot of confusion from people about the building where we have the Board of Elections and, sorry. Chairman Matt Mahan is keeping me on track. I cannot remember to do this microphone. Anyway, there's a lot of confusion, like you'll say the health department, community services building, and then they're thinking of the building where we have the Board of Elections, and that is officially called
Talent Services Center.
Talent Services.
Services Center. So we have community service building, and that's very confusing to people. So I don't know what, I think having very large signage that says health department, code
Enforcement,
enforcement
planning.
will
Yeah.
really help.
Yeah. And
But
so,
it is very, they're similar, the names, yeah.
yeah, and it's, and I've gotten that feedback also, Commissioner Woody, and so we're gonna work on the interior signage first, and then more than likely the exterior signage. You gotta put a lot of effort and thought into that, right? And so that hopefully we'll be in a position come spring or summertime to start doing something for exterior.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. I don't think we have anybody that signed up for informal comments. Okay, all right, we'll move on then. Consent agenda. Item 1, finance report for 2021. Ms. Fox?
I'll go over the highlights for the month of November. The general fund revenues collected to date is $34,699,205. That's 47.62% of budget. It's over the average of 5.95% for this time of the year. The expenditures today is $27,898,642. That's 39.56% of budget. So the expenditures are under 3.11%. The revenues at the end of November were $6,800,653 more than the expenditures. The ad valorem taxes collected are at 66.11% of budget, $24,293,914. The motor vehicle tax collected is $572,532. That's 38.97% of budget. The prior year taxes collected, $337,484. That's 37.49% budget. We received the sales and use tax distribution for the month of November, which represented August sales. That amount was $1,743,167. It's 13.18% more than we received last November. The Article 46 distribution amount was $201,792. We received the FY21 sales and use tax refund on our expenditures and contractor statements. That amount was $414,131. That's that we spent last year that we got reimbursed for. The landfill disposal fees collected, $1,439,643, 65.32% of budget. And the prior year disposal fees, $52,887. It's 96.16% of budget. The growth revenues were tracking. All are above budget. Planning's 47.23% above. Environmental health's 25.34% above. And registered deeds is 15.49% above. The general fund contingency balance at the end of November was $1,460,075.31. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the report.
Questions about item 1, the finance report? If not, then item 2 is the budget ordinance amendment and grant ordinance amendment.
Okay. The budget ordinance amendment is for an increase from fund balance of $228,380.28. This is for the purchase of motor vehicles that we had intended to buy last fiscal year, but we could not locate them. And they've just now started taking orders for the vehicles. So maybe we'll get them in by February or March. And it's for maintenance, code enforcement, planning, health, DSS, recreation departments.
Are we in, is it a serious concern? I mean, do we have enough vehicles to keep going?
We do. We do.
Okay.
The second is a grant ordinance amendment, and it's from the American Rescue Plan Act Grant Fund. The amount of it is a decrease of $3,489,521.40. That increases the budget for public safety equipment in the amount of $1,210,450.90, and an increase for the homeless and domestic violence project of $2,174,497.50. Be glad to answer any questions on the amendments.
Questions about the amendments?
Not so much a question, but that sales tax for August, that's the 13.8% is the lowest I've seen it since I've been back on commission in a year. It's been 14 or higher if I can recall.
You're right.
But it's 13.8, it's not really.
13.18. No, it's not low.
It's still that much above the year before, isn't it?
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Any other questions for Ms. Fox? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Brandy Henson, our tax collector, and refund reports for November 2021. Ms. Henson?
Good afternoon. The 2021 taxes collected for the month were $7,872,396. The delinquent taxes collected for the month were $118,212. The total deposited for November was $8,366,694.62. And also for the month, there were overpayment refunds of $37,086.60. Any questions? Thank you.
Much. Okay, we have heard all three items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Lightning.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next is our new business, and I'm going to recognize Mr. Adams or Mr. Fox. Which one will?
Well, really, we do have Mr. Matt Braswell here, Martin Starnes and Associates, and I'll just turn it over to him. He's here to present the fiscal year 2021 audit report.
Mr. Braswell, I apologize for the delay. I know you've been with us a long time. I appreciate your patience.
Yes, sir.
I hope you've enjoyed all this conversation today.
There's so much going on in Jackson County, which is a good
Absolutely.
thing. And so, no, I completely understand. And thank you for allowing me to take some time out of your meeting today. Just wanted to go over your highlights of your 2021 fiscal year audit. Now, this is a snapshot in time as of 6/30/21. So, let's see. Just some audit highlights. We issued an unmodified opinion, which that means we issued a clean opinion, which means your financial statements are in accordance with GAAP and materially correct in all facets. Very cooperative staff, Darlene, everyone that we work with, Don, everyone that we work with from finance to HR to DSS to the health department to every person that we have to get information from or talk to, very more than willing, very responsive, able to get your audit completed in a timely manner, and we truly appreciate the relationship we have with Jackson County. No findings or question costs, no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses noted. So nothing that we felt that needed to be discussed with management or board with anything related to Jackson County's internal controls. Audit highlights continued here. 2021, you can see the property tax revenues increased. A fairly good growth here of about 1.6 million. And then you can see your collection rate also increased there as well. So overall, that is very good for Jackson County. Next slide, you can see your general fund summary. So you can see, I would say the anticipation of revenues climbing quite substantially was somewhat on your radar there, but you can see the climb from 73 to 79 million in revenues there. Revenues exceeded expenditures by about 10.6 for fiscal year 2021. Revenues increased about 6.1, while overall you were able to keep expenditures relatively flat, a small minimal increase there of about $200,000. And then fund balance here just serves as your available resources that you have on hand. And just what I want to touch on this slide is the classifications of your fund balance. You have non-spendable, which is not in cash form. This is your inventory and prepaids. Restricted, this is an internal. This is actually a third party or external restriction there, either by a grantor or something of that nature. Committed, this is an internal constraint by you, the board, that does not expire at year end. Assigned is a lower level of constraint there that does expire at year end. That is just an internal restriction there. Everything else is unassigned or left over that is available for use. Total fund balance, as you can see, the gradual growth over the past 3 years from 2019 to 2021, increase in total fund balance in your general fund of roughly $5.9 million. And to put in perspective your unassigned or non-committed fund balance here, you can see your total fund balance from the previous slide was about 35.2. You have to take out your restricted for register of deeds of 53,000. Stabilization by state statute. This is restricted by state law. This is basically your accounts receivable or money that you have not received in yet that is not available for appropriation. And then your assigned committed of about 5.5. Now this is made up, majority of your capital reserve, about 3.2 million, and your conservation and preservation of roughly 1.8, to leave you with an unassigned fund balance of roughly $23 million. And you can see in comparison with fiscal year 2020, you've had an increase in your unassigned by about $3.5 million.
That's 6,563,000. That's the 8% that.
No, that is accounts receivable in your general fund that has to be taken out. That is basically has to be taken out, or restricted fund balance in your financial statement. So that is all your accounts receivable, such as sales tax, such as various receivables that's not in cash form. So no, that is not the 8%, no sir. The next slide. To show your reserves on hand, you can see we take your unassigned fund balance from the previous slide and then divide that into your expenditures and transfers out. So overall, you have your reserves increased to roughly 31% there. So roughly 4 months supply on hand. 8% is roughly 1 month supply on hand. So you can see an increase from 27 to about 30%. So this does meet your board designated a 25% unassigned fund balance. And to go through your top 3 revenue sources here, property tax, that's going to be the main driver for all local governments. You can see the increase there of about 1.6 or 4.5%. So that's just overall growth within the county. That's very good for Jackson County. Other taxes and licenses. Now this is 98% made up of local option sales tax. And so as you've kind of seen the growth and different things within sales tax. It increased roughly $3.5 million, or about 20%, from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 20 to 21 there. So we have seen this trend across these states. Some has been a lot higher than others. So as I was talking to Darlene a little bit, your coastal communities and your mountain, your destination, more places there have seen quite substantial growth, as you have seen. You're more rural and closer, internal there. We've maybe seen 8 to 10%. So overall, Jackson County increase in sales tax is very good.
So before we move on from that, one thing I want to point out to the board, this property tax the value increase, that is a true increase of monies for this board, okay? For general government purposes. When you look at sales tax, just a reminder, a portion of these sales tax, this is all sales tax, which includes education sales tax. So when we go back and look at, you remember you were able to go ahead and approve the $7+ million safety upgrades to the schools and things of that nature. It's this type of growth that's what allowed you to move forward with that project. So when you look, I just want you to point out, you see a 4 million here, and then you see a 1.8, what is that, about a 1.67. 1.6. That doesn't add to the 3.5 when you go back. It's not, that's for the simple fact that ultimately a portion of this, remember, has to go towards education. So just wanted to point that out.
And so the local option sales tax and the property tax there, your revenues from prior year increased roughly $5.8 to $6 million, and so 90% of that is due to sales tax and property tax revenue. And then the third largest revenue source is restricted and governmental. This is your federal and state grants. A slight increase there. This is going to fluctuate from year to year. This does not include any ARP funding that is set aside in a separate fund, and none was used in fiscal year 2021. So this has nothing to do with the ARP funding.
Will ARP funding be shown in this category in years to come?
It is set aside in a separate special revenue fund. It would not be within your general fund there due to general statute, local government commission, guidelines. They prefer in a separate fund, so it will not be included in this number. But I'm sure as you start to appropriate funding in the ARP funds, your finance, and then you'll see in your audit report next year the expenditures related to the ARP funding in a separate fund. It will be clearly labeled and separated out. Top three expenditure functions, public safety, increase of about $200,000 or 1%. Very, very comparable to the prior year. Human services, this is going to fluctuate a little bit from year to year as well, and you can see the the slight increase there of about $200,000, and you can see that restricted governmental went up just a little bit, about $200,000. So it's going to kind of go ebb and flow with your federal and state grants. So overall, about a 1% increase as well. General government, as you can see here, got a slight decrease, and this is mainly due to a little bit less capital outlay in the fiscal year 2021, but overall very, very comparable on the expenditure side, and the revenues was main drivers with sales tax and property tax. So overall a very good year for Jackson County. Nothing else for me to report. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns.
Any questions from the board members? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, board.
And we do need to vote to accept this audit report and approve it. If the board is comfortable today to approve such report, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the report as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any question or discussion?
Just want to thank County Manager Adams and Darlene Fox and the department heads for keeping the budgets in line and the numbers down in a tough time. And we've been fortunate to have those sales tax and property taxes go up. So Jackson County's in good shape right now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribley?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item 5, grant project ordinances. Ms. Fox?
Okay, I've got two grant project ordinances for your consideration today. One is for Both of them are for Jackson County homeless and domestic abuse shelters projects. The first one is from Dogwood Health Trust. It's the grant of $2,174,497.50.
We got the wrong one loaded.
All right, so let's make sure we have it in 5. Yeah, we have it in 5, but it's not.
It's in here.
Yeah, it'd be in your notebooks, what
It's in
they've
the
got on the
notebook.
screen
Okay.
is the one, so.
And the second one is from the American Rescue Plan Act, revenues of $2,174,497.50. And it's to fund the capital projects for the homeless and the domestic violence.
So we did receive the Dogwood money?
We did. We received them the first of this month. So they're in hand. So this will set aside the funds. Earlier in the amendment, you approved the $2,174,000 for this. So this sets it in a project fund for the disbursement of it.
Okay. Would someone like to entertain a motion to approve this grant project ordinance?
I'd put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion about what we're voting on?
This is the Women's Abuse Center
Center for Domestic Peace.
Yeah.
and a homeless shelter in one?
No,
Or
this
is it
is,
separate?
this is planning money to do studies to determine what kind of homeless shelter potentially might be needed and to survey the building structure. It's only planning money for the homeless side, and then for the Center for Domestic Peace, it is to move forward with the planning documents, to construction documents, the whole 9 yards.
Is that two separate things, or is it?
It's all in one package.
So Tom, when you look at it, you see where it says planning here, 62.5?
Yeah,
Okay, and there's a second ordinance that has 62.5. If you remember, I said there's 125 total for the planning for the homeless program. That's the only thing out of this ordinance that goes towards that. Then if you go to the second line, you see the planning for the Center for Domestic Peace, the 62.5. That's 125 for that. And then if you go to the third line, construction for the CDP. So the only construction line is for that Center for Domestic Peace. And then second of all, remember, this is just putting it in a form that we can move forward. The next steps of this that's going to come back before the board is going to be an architect contract for the Center for Domestic Peace only. That's it. You remember, we're going to have HERE come to you in January, and what they're going to be discussing with you in January is not an architect contract, but a consulting contract to help us answer all the questions. So it doesn't have to do with building the facility. It has to do with answering the community questions. So the only thing you're going to be approving for actual construction, if you want to call it that, is for the Center for Domestic Peace. And that starts with the architect contract. But as far as the construction goes, we still got a year worth of planning. That's got to go out to bid, and then that whole project has to come back to you for approval.
okay.
Okay?
Because see, I'm all for the domestic violence shelter, but I'm not for a homeless shelter.
I understand.
Okay,
But that money is not to build it, it's to talk about the planning for it.
okay, all right.
And the reason I did 2 ordinance is because the grant was a 50% match, and I wanted everybody to see the difference between the Dogwood and the American Rescue Plan.
Half of it is grant money we were already given, like Darlene
Right,
said,
right.
it just came. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Other
Yes.
questions? Okay, if not, then we got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next is offer to purchase from Cub Islands LLC. This is with Resolution R21-38, and I'll recognize Ms. Baker to walk us through this offer.
Thank you. I know it's been a long afternoon already, and this is a little bit longer than what I usually do on these. Oh, actually, Don, can I get the, or do you want to do it? Okay. And I believe we've got Mr. Simba Naika, who is on the phone today with us. He is the person, he is the principal of Cub Islands Llc, so he has made this offer. He knows much about these properties. And then also Miss Ash is in here. She was kind enough to stay because she also may be able to answer some questions about these properties. So if you need to, you can mute him, and then I'll just ask him if we need to, we can open that up to him. All right, so Mr. Naika or Cub Islands LLC has made an offer on 8 properties. I've highlighted those here, and I may come back to them. They're the ones highlighted in yellow. These purple ones are ones we've already sold, and we're working on the title issue, I think, as you know. So I'm going to start and go through these one by one, try and give you a little information. This first one here, this lot 216, Unit 1, Holly Forest, is the first of 2 here that are in Holly Forest. I will be honest, I don't know. I don't have a lot of information about Holly Forest. Commissioner Jones actually may be able to help us on that. But these are lots that we've owned since 2000 and, let's see if I can go back to it here, 2015. I think you've got the highlighted chart in front of you. And again, many people see these and come and go through this list, and nobody's been interested in these yet. You can see here too that our assessment of these are pretty low at $12,500. And again, if you have questions, Commissioner Jones actually may be able to have some information on these, or Miss Ash is here. But Mr. Naik has made a pretty reasonable offer on this one of $1,200 on this first one. The second one is, I would just keep that muted, and it's not. Oh, maybe Commissioner Dietz. Okay, thanks. It's down at where it says Lot 6, Christie Trail and I'll get to that one in a minute. It's the other one in Holly Forest, and that's why I kind of am talking about these in tandem, because they're both in the same area of Holly Forest. So the next one, and if you have questions, just let me know and I'll try and get them answered. The next one is Lot 42, Water Dance. This is one that some of you may remember. Commissioner Strickland, Commissioner Jones, I don't believe you were here at the time. I think it was in 2018, maybe, that you accepted an offer on this lot for a much lower amount, actually, or for a little bit lower amount than this one. And it went through the upset bid process. We had no upset bids, and then the owner or the person who made the offer was not able to close. He had not looked closely at the restrictive covenants in Water Dance. He was wanting to do some type of mobile structure, could not do that in there and did not close on it. And so this is actually a higher offer than what he had made. This one's, again, in Water Dance, so tried to just get where the covered bridge is here. Comes out, so it's a lot that's pretty much close, I guess, to the beginning here of Water Dance. This big white thing that you see on there is a boulder. It is a huge boulder. It's hard to see that. It's hard for me to get that close up enough for you to see where it's located and get that in. So it's not an easy lot to build in, which is why I think we've had it for so long. So I actually think this is a good offer on this lot. And I know from having spoken with Mr. Naika, he's done his research, so I know he's looked at these covenants and knows what's there in Water Dance. So that's the situation on this one. I'm going to move on down to the next one. This is lot 44 of Garnet Ridge. Garnet Ridge is a subdivision out Pumpkin Town Road. So if you're not familiar with where Pumpkin Town Road is, it's going up towards Franklin before you go up Cowie. It's on the left. This, I did some work trying to give you an idea of where this is. This is about 1.5 miles out Garnet Road, and then another 2 miles out Pumpkin Town. So it's about 3.5 miles from 441, out here where this subdivision is. The few houses that you can see here are the only houses I could see that have been built in this Garnet Ridge subdivision. I'm looking to Tabitha, she's shaking her head yes. So this lot was one that we foreclosed on just about a year and a quarter ago. And so the offer on this one is for $5,000, which I think our cost on that, I have to go back up, was $11,161, but it has been over a year on that one. And then going down, now these next two lots, if you can see the red dots on there, they are, here's one red dot, here's the other. These are the next two lots in this Big Ridge subdivision. This is the Rebuffa subdivision. If I'm correct on this, you're going towards Cashers. The marina is on the left, and then just past that is it Big Ridge Road? Okay, good. Y'all know more about this than I do. It's Big Ridge Road. It goes way up there, and it's actually, this looks to me like it's former Christmas tree farm property, because you can see that kind of around here. But this was the subdivision that went under. There were some federal indictments involved. It didn't have anything, a lot of history there. I don't think it had much to do with the property itself, but with the developer. So I can answer any questions on that. We've had these lots, one of these lots we've had on here since 2014. The other one we just foreclosed in 2020, but I think that's right, Tabitha, that we were waiting to see about some taxes, how some things, but there's not been taxes paid on that for a long time. Is that right? Yeah. So they're close to each other. And then I've already mentioned to you this, let's see, no, we're not there yet. Okay, this next one is the lot 10 and 11 Mountain Vista. This is, I think I printed it where you can see here, Cullowhee Mountain Road is here. Now this is the Cashers end of Cullowhee Mountain Road, not the Cullowhee. And this also looks to Christmas Tree Farm area here. This lot here is 10 and 11. We've owned these for a long time as well, since 2015. I believe this is the one. Yeah, I show you here, if you see in the blue outline here, this is with 20-foot contours on. This property in the last one, I wanted to print it with the contours because they are so steep. If I put the 4-foot contours on here, it widened it out. You couldn't see it. And I think that's why we've owned this one for so long. So I thought you might want to see that with the contours here. This is the next one is the Lot 6 Christie Trail, or West Christie Trail. This is Holly Forest again. So it's similar. It's not too far from the other lot that we have. And then finally, this is a 30-acre tract out Wary Hut Road, which the county has owned since 1998. We found this not too long ago, added it to this list. I pulled the deed on this, just trying to get some history. The deed shows that it was given to the county in lieu of taxes, which we don't do that anymore. We haven't done that. I'm not sure of the exact history of this tract, but it actually states that on the deed. This is about 2.5 miles out Wary Hut Road from my measurements. And again, I wanted to show this to you. This is with 20-foot contours. Again, when I put the 4-foot contours on, you couldn't see anything here. So this 20-foot contours. I did ask our planning department to take a look at this a couple years ago when we first found this property that was owned by the county, just to see if it could be used for housing or any purpose. And John Jeleneski took a look at it, and based on our slope ordinance, and it may be one building site would be feasible on here, which is why I think we've had this for so long. I've had a couple people ask me about it. I've not had any offers of this a long time.
That's 30 acres.
30 acres. But you can see why. And if you look at the one previous here, I printed this one. I thought this was really good. It shows you it's right on the ridge line, and you can see the ridge line there and then going down from there. So it's steep going down, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Naika is here with us on the Zoom and has researched these properties as well. And then Ms. Ash is here. And I realize also that this is the first time you're seeing this. It's a lot of properties. Mr. Naika knows I think he hopes that these will be able to move forward, but he understands also you may want more information or have questions for us as well, and that may not be able to happen today.
Is there a road to this lot?
To the 30 acres, this is Wary Hut. It's right off of Wary Hut Road.
Oh, so that is.
That is Wary
okay,
Hut.
I see where it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can probably see it better here on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all right.
The resolution is to accept the properties for all of them. It's a total of $35,200 he's offered for all of these properties, but has, as the board has requested in the past, broken these out per property. And of course, if the offer was accepted, it would go to upset bid, and we would send out letters to all adjoining property owners as we do for them all.
Do we know what
Heather,
amount of tax dollars,
Heather,
Commissioner Dees, Commissioner Jones is asking a question. If I can go ahead and hear his, then I'll check with you.
I'll yield to Commissioner Deeds.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Commissioner Dees, we can hear you.
I hope you hear me. The property on Warrior,
Yes.
does it adjoin the property that Western Carolina University has up there?
I
Do you know
don't,
anything about that?
I don't believe it does. I looked at the property owners surrounding it. I always do when I'm looking at these, and I couldn't tell you who they were, but I think I would remember if one was Western. So I'm not aware of that.
Uh-huh. And how about, and the property on Big Ridge?
Yes,
There's 2 lots there.
yes.
Do they have, are they any of the 2 lots that has buildings that were started on it, houses that were started it ceased after they had the problem up there?
Miss Ash Tabitha's in here, and she is shaking her head no, that they are not. It doesn't look like it from here.
Where that little circle is there,
This,
that's the top houses that were started on Hampton Springs. Most of those are okay. Once you go past that down that road, there to the left, it kind of winds down Shore Road on that left-hand side.
am I in the area?
Up there, where it says Grasshopper,
Yeah, I can't see
that's where
that
you go
from
to
here.
Hampton Springs. That's where all those houses are.
Okay, so yeah, no, this is a different area of that subdivision than where those houses are.
Okay. Because I know there's some, y'all have all seen them, I guess. I don't know. There's some huge houses in there that was started when they went bankrupt or whatever happened. That's sitting up there now I think most of them got a roof on them, but they're wasted around. I'm talking about $1 million houses. There's 3 or 4 of them.
Are they all?
But they don't.
Yeah, sorry, this is Simba. Yes, I saw the houses you're talking about, and those are further in, like to the top left of where your mouse is. And yeah, they have kind of decaying roofs from what it looks like. Yeah, so and the road is not maintained back on the inside there. That's why I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So
They're
these are vacant lots. These 2 have not had any building on them.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Sure. All right, Commissioner Jones.
The dollar amount that it's going to put back into our tax roll for these properties.
I will look to Tabitha definitely for that.
I think it says right on that one that's
Well, I've got all the assessed values. I can tell you that the Holly Forest lots are assessed at $12,500. Lot 42 Water Dance is assessed at $30,000, and the Garnet Ridge lot at $72,330, and then the Wary Hut property at $118,000, and the other Big Ridge Road at $30,000. So I don't know how of course, obviously, all that added together, multiplied by our tax value, I could tell you with some time, or I know Tabitha could. And Ms. Ash, that assessed value won't change with this, any sale here, correct? Because it's not a, right.
Well, I'm willing to go forward with the process of upset bids and seeing where that goes, because we've had most of these for quite a while.
Is there anyone that objects to moving forward today that'd like to table it for further research? I mean, if that's, I want to make sure if there's someone that has further questions, and this would be a good time for us just to table it. If not, then we can move forward. All right.
I think my thought is worth tabling this item over, but it sure would be nice to know and let the public know that dollar amount that we're going to start getting back on some of these properties been sitting here for 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't, yes, and I can start, and that is something I can start bringing in as well when I do this. Fortunately, if the ones you approved for sale the last meeting, and these are going to take, if we move forward on these, would take care of a lot of those. But when we have some offers in the future, I can definitely bring that in. I don't know that the amount would be a lot, at one time, because we're fortunate here in Jackson County, we don't have a really high tax rate. We have a low tax rate, so I don't know that they would be high, but over years it adds up.
Yes.
And of course, they're not gaining anything while they're sitting in the county's name.
And I just like the idea of that having that dollar amount enables Ms. Fox and Mr. Adams to project those extra officers, because you got to have that sales tax. You can't count on it from year to year because it changes. Property tax is a different ballgame. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm not hearing anyone express a concern or a request to table. So, Commissioner Woody, would you like to move forward with the motion then? I understand.
Yes, I'd like to move that we accept this offer and go through the process of upset bids.
Okay, so Commissioner Woody has moved to accept the offer and the companion resolution R21-38 and to start the upset bid process. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none then, Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next is item 7, and this is a request to transfer control of a retired law enforcement canine officer. I'm going to recognize our chief deputy to come forward, Mr. Matt White, who will be presenting this item today.
Thank you again, and I know that it's been a long day. I appreciate your time. Scout is here. Scout's been waiting out in the lobby, and I've been trying to keep him real quiet. But anyhow, Sheriff Hall was made aware by our doctor of veterinary medicine that helps us with our canine program that Scout was reaching the point of his service life, and we need to consider retiring him. Y'all should have that documentation in front of you. So we presented that letter to the county manager for y'all to consider retiring him on December 31st. I asked Scotty to come in and bring Scout today just so he could share with you a little bit about his accomplishments and what he's done during his career. But we're asking for you to officially retire him from service for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office and the people of Jackson County, and transfer his care and custody over to his handler, Scotty Holder. So I don't know if y'all want to vote on that first, or if you want to hear from Scotty.
Let's hear from Scotty first.
All right, bring Scott on.
I think Mr. Adams and I are both acquainted with Scout.
Is that the one?
So, Scotty, just tell me a little bit about what's going on with Scout and why we made this decision to retire.
Here, bud.
Oh. When we first got Scout,
he had a shoulder injury.
Hey,
He, basically what it was, he grew so fast, the cartilage didn't turn to bone in his left shoulder. Well, they had to go in and do surgery because there's a flap in there that kept catching the shoulder. And so they went in and done the surgery. Well, I've noticed over the last year or so, the more work he does, agility, running, he'd start favoring that shoulder real bad. And then back in about June, I guess it was, maybe a little earlier, I know he's doing it real bad. Every time I work him hard, or at the end of the day, jumping in and out of the vehicle, he kept getting worse and started whimpering. So took him to the vet. She done some X-rays, seen that she had a bunch of real bad arthritis, and in there in the joints got some bone spurs, kind of joining the realm of the joint. And she said if he keeps up doing what he's doing, jumping in and out of the vehicle, running, crippled, where he won't be able to do nothing.
The rest of his life.
How old is Scout?
Turned 7 last month.
I read that.
You got some achievements of what he's
Had him
done there.
had him on the Remedil and all that, and that's just where it's not even working anymore.
I just wrote down some of the top things, I mean, off the top of my head that he's done. Of course, we've had numerous narcotic seizures. I mean, a lot of other departments has asked for our help. We've had numerous narcotic seizures. Scout, I don't know if y'all know, he's what we call a full patrol dog. He's trained in apprehension, trained in handler protection, narcotics, tracking, and article search. One of we had this poor lady, Mr. McMahon might remember, up here on Dandelion Drive, I think it is. She had some mental issues, and she kept walking off in the woods numerous times. I did 3 tracks on her, and we found her all 3 times with the dog.
Wow.
Well, let's see here. We've done, of course, we had a couple people jump and run out of the vehicle stop. We've located them. One of the biggest things here lately is the town of Silva had some break-ins up off of Ridgeway Street. Several, like 3 or 4 houses got broken into, and one of the caretakers come up there to check on the house because he heard about break-ins, walks in, and the guy's sitting in the living room. The guy jumps out, bolts out, runs in the woods. They call us, the officer is working, called, found the suspect laying on a laurel bush about 500 yards from the house, and they was able to get him connected with all the break-ins. So that was
great.
That was a good find for him.
Yeah.
We had a homicide last year. Miss Shannon, was it Mr. Hicks? Was that last year, roughly? Within a year ago, had a homicide in Whittier. The suspect threw a gun over the bank off the road. Didn't know exactly where it was at. I deployed Scout, and within less than a minute, he found the gun used.
Really?
So he's had a lot of accomplishments over his career. He's done numerous canine demonstrations, everything from the Citizen Academy schools, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, some programs up at Western. That's one of the funnest things as a canine officer, that's one of the funnest things to do is canine demos and showing people the dogs and what they do, and it's really amazing. We just did our last one for the Boy Scouts about 2 weeks ago, so that was bittersweet there, kind of. Sorry, getting teary-eyed.
So, well, we appreciate your time, Scotty, bringing Scout in, and we're just asking for y'all's blessings on his official retirement on December 31st, and give him a good place to stay and keep him with his handler going forward.
Let him enjoy the rest of his life.
Someone like to put that in the form of a motion to officially retire Scout and transfer ownership?
I would like to put that in a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? I'd just like to say, Officer Holder, how much I appreciate you. It is a special calling to be a K-9 handler, and the work that you do is invaluable to our county, and I appreciate your willingness to do such.
Me too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Being a canine is one of the hardest things you can do, but it's one of the most rewarding things you can do. So it's a lot of time consuming. A lot of people don't realize how much time goes into working with a canine, but you have to do stuff with your dog. You have to, or the dog's not going to be any good.
Yeah. Well, that's your partner right there.
It is. And
That's your partner.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Happily, yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Enjoy retirement, Scout.
Say thank you. Say thank you.
Good boy.
Since Sheriff Hall is not here, we should have voted to make him buy the dog feed.
Yeah.
Final resolution.
Is that?
All they have to do is
Okay.
adopt this resolution.
All right, that's what you need from me.
Okay.
We'll see where they're at.
That's a pretty dog.
Okay, next is item 8. This is a continuation of the conversation that we had from the work session. Here again, our Chief Deputy, Matt Wyke, is here. This is concerning the contract with Axon, concerning the body camera, the fleet camera system, the taser system. We've heard an extensive amount of information already about this as a follow-up, not only budget process through individual presentations and then today as well as a follow-up. Any additional questions before we move into the action item on this? All right, you have heard what's been recommended, that we move forward. This is a simple award the contract.
So it's we go to item 9, which is legislation,
Okay.
which this is the resolution approving the purchase of the Accident Officer Safety Plan, and just it's self-explanatory, but it goes down, and I believe it authorizes Brian as the signer.
So this will be, the action would be to approve resolution R2139, which is item 9. Okay. And I'll be glad to put that in the form of a motion myself. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're down to the appointment section of our agenda. Item 10 is the Fireman's Relief Fund Board of Trustees. This is that is for the fire departments. What was the name that was supposed to be for Balsam here?
Oh, you mean who's spell with one Don?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyway. You should see a list, and for Balsam Fire Department, that's Harold Parks. You can pencil that in on your list.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a board that's has 5 members, 2 appointments by the county commissioners, 2 elected by the fire departments, and then 1 appointed by the North Carolina Insurance Commissioner. They serve staggered terms, and they are the boards that oversee the disbursement of the Fireman's Relief Fund, which is a small percentage of the premiums of fire insurance tax that comes back. Fire insurance premiums that come back to the county, and it's limited uses. It's very restricted by the state government. So what this can be used for, mainly for some insurances, sometimes if a destitute fireman, et cetera, very limited, and it has to be authorized by this board, and then it goes to the state for approval. And the statutorily requires that we have these boards. So these are the names that have been presented to us from the counties.
This one says Chris Bowers, but on this sheet it says Chris Cave. So I believe.
This may be their recommendation. This is the list of that's who's serving.
I'm sorry.
And this is the
Okay.
list that's being
Thank you.
recommended
Okay.
from the departments.
Okay, thank you.
So you should have the list. Balsam Fire Department, Harold Parks. Canada Fire Department, Harold Nicholson. Cassius Fire Department, Randy Dillard. Pelowee Fire Department, Leo Webb, Qualla Fire Department, John Thomason, and then Savannah Fire Department, Chris Cabe. Would someone like to put that in the form of a motion to approve these individuals as the county commissioner appointees?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, if not, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Commissioner Deets? Okay, we may have lost him.
Chairman McMahon.
Okay, yes, motion carries. All right, next on the appointments is the planning board. I am prepared to move forward today with my appointment for the chairman's appointment. I did have a chance to have a conversation since our last meeting with Mr. Waldrop, and I would like to put forward a motion to reappoint Brad Waldrop to the Jackson County Planning Board, serving as my appointee.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? And then Commissioner Deets has an appointment, and since he may have dropped off the call, we'll wait till this next meeting to take up action on that item, give him a chance to follow up. Madam Clerk, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. Item 12 is
Motion to reappoint
Back into open session, and I'll report no action taken in closed session. We do have one additional item that we need to take care of, so I'm going to ask that the board, someone make a motion then that we amend the agenda and add an item 15, and that's going to be Transit Director. Would someone put that in the form of a motion? Transit Director hire.
I move that we accept,
Amend the agenda.
amend the agenda.
Okay, all right, we have a motion to amend the agenda, add item 15, the Transit Director position to hire. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Second.
All right.
Aye.
All right, so we do have from our staff, our manager and management team interviewed applicants for the position of a transit director for Jackson County. This is a vacancy that we've had with the retirement of the recent transit director. And the recommendation coming from that committee is April Alm. And she would start at grade 26, step 10, with an annual salary of $52,831.67. That's what's been recommended to the board from the committee. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we offer her the job as recommended by the committee.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. I think Jackson County will be pleased with this election. Her proposed start date will be January 18th, 2020. Currently, right now, Ms. Breedlove will be working on a press release to follow up with the public and for you all too, so you'll have that information in your hand when asked.
And with that being said, I think there is no other business to be conducted. Is that correct, Mr. Adams?
That is correct, sir.
And the next time this board will be in session will be January the 4th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. January 4th at 6 p.m. That will be our next meeting, regular meeting. So